σταθερό και σούπερ γρήγορο ίντερνετ για όλους ταυτόχρονα. Ακόμα και ασύρματα με τη δύναμη του Wi-Fi 6. Βάλε Nova Fiber πρόγραμμα στο σπίτι σου. Από μόνο 27,22 ευρώ το μήνα με Gigabit Voucher. Nova.
Check this out.
It hasn't been such a long time since people first started shopping online, and it was easy to keep up with the clicks. Little by little by little by more, the clicks added up to be more than the stores, and e-tailers worked harder than ever before, because they had to keep up with the clicks. The clicks came from laptops, then tablets and phones, Monday through Sunday, office and home, 24 hours in every zone, and still they kept up with the clicks. Now shoppers ask more from the websites they're on, their language, their currency, their way, or they're gone, so you'd better keep up with the clicks. All of a sudden, there are so many must-dos if you want to keep selling, like delivery there, no there, or there.
And make it tomorrow, first thing.
No time for borders. Gotta stay in control, to stay in the flow and continue to grow. But we'll help you. Keep up with the clicks.
ECOMBX.
It's all over the news. Tech companies are becoming energy giants, banks are becoming software companies, and fast food is getting into wellness. At PwC, we're making sure you're ready for what's next. With AI that's built for how your business works, we're designing built-for-you solutions with tech titans and trailblazers. And our 370,000 professionals are taking on the knowns, unknowns, and never saw that comings, that are definitely coming. We're in it with you, sleeves rolled up, start to finish, so you can stay ahead, so you can protect what you built, so you can create new value. We build for what's next, so you can get there now. PwC, so you can.
The world needs ways to reduce carbon emissions,
especially for heavy industry.
We're working on solutions in our own operations,
like carbon capture
and clean energy from hydrogen.
So who are we?
Believe it or not, ExxonMobil. And these solutions can help businesses like yours.
Or yours.
Or yours.
Heavy industry with low emissions. Let's deliver.
Με ελεύθερο πνεύμα, ευθύνη και θάρρος, βγήκαμε πρωταθλητές. Freedom 24. Γεννηθήκαμε στην Κύπρο, κατακτήσαμε την Ευρώπη.
Όταν τίποτα δεν σε σταματά, προχωράς μπροστά. Πιο δυνατά. Κάνεις περισσότερα. Και σπάς τα όρια. Το δίκτυο Nova 5G φτιάχτηκε για σένα. Για ταχύτητα και απεριόριστες δυνατότητες. Απεριόριστα data. Ταχύτητες 5G. Πάρε το Unlimited All τώρα. Από μόνο 28 ευρώ το μήνα. Μόνο στην Nova.
Το Nova Fiber φέρνει τη δύναμη της οπτικής ίνας. Όχι μόνο μέχρι το δρόμο, αλλά μέχρι και το σπίτι σου. Nova Fiber. Σούπερ σταθερό και σούπερ γρήγορο ίντερνετ για όλους ταυτόχρονα. Ακόμα και ασύρματα με τη δύναμη του Wi-Fi 6. Βάλε Nova Fiber πρόγραμμα στο σπίτι σου. Από μόνο 27,22 ευρώ το μήνα με Gigabit Voucher. Nova.
Check this out.
It hasn't been such a long time since people first started shopping online, and it was easy to keep up with the clicks. Little by little by little by more, the clicks added up to be more than the stores, and e-tailers worked harder than ever before because they had to keep up with the clicks. The clicks came from laptops, then tablets and phones, Monday through Sunday, office and home, 24 hours in every zone, and still they kept up with the clicks. Now shoppers ask more from the websites they're on, their language, their currency, their way, or they're gone, so you'd better keep up with the clicks. All of a sudden, there are so many must-dos if you want to keep selling, like delivery there, no there, or there.
And make it tomorrow. First thing.
No time for borders. Got to stay in control, to stay in the flow and continue to grow. But we'll help you. Keep up with the clicks.
BX.
It's all over the news. Tech companies are becoming energy giants, banks are becoming software companies, and fast food is getting into wellness. At PwC, we're making sure you're ready for what's next. With AI that's built for how your business works, we're designing built-for-you solutions with tech titans and trailblazers. And our 370,000 professionals are taking on the knowns, unknowns, and never saw that comings that are definitely coming. We're in it with you, sleeves rolled up, start to finish, so you can stay ahead, so you can protect what you built, so you can create new value. We build for what's next, so you can get there now. PwC, so you can.
The world needs ways to reduce carbon emissions.
Especially for heavy industry.
We're working on solutions in our own operations.
Like carbon capture.
And clean energy from hydrogen.
So who are we?
Believe it or not, ExxonMobil. And these solutions can help businesses like yours.
Or yours.
Or yours.
Heavy industry with low emissions. Let's deliver.
Με ελεύθερο πνεύμα, ευθύνη και θάρρος, βγήκαμε πρωταθλητές. Freedom 24. Γεννηθήκαμε στην Κύπρο, κατακτήσαμε την Ευρώπη.
Όταν τίποτα δεν σε σταματά, προχωράς μπροστά. Πιο δυνατά. Κάνεις περισσότερα. Και σπάς τα όρια. Το δίκτυο Nova 5G φτιάχτηκε για σένα. Για ταχύτητα και απεριόριστες δυνατότητες. Απεριόριστα data. Ταχύτητες 5G. Πάρε το Unlimited All τώρα από μόνο 28 ευρώ το μήνα. Μόνο στη Nova.
Το Nova Fiber φέρνει τη δύναμη της οπτικής ίνας. Όχι μόνο μέχρι το δρόμο, αλλά μέχρι και το σπίτι σου. Nova Fiber. Σούπερ σταθερό και σούπερ γρήγορο ίντερνετ για όλους ταυτόχρονα. Ακόμα και ασύρματα με τη δύναμη του Wi-Fi 6. Βάλε Nova Fiber πρόγραμμα στο σπίτι σου. Από μόνο 27,22 ευρώ το μήνα με Gigabit Voucher. Nova.
Check this out.
It hasn't been such a long time since people first started shopping online, and it was easy to keep up with the clicks. Little by little by little by more, the clicks added up to be more than the stores, and e-tailers worked harder than ever before because they had to keep up with the clicks. The clicks came from laptops, then tablets and phones, Monday through Sunday, office and home, 24 hours in every zone, and still they kept up with the clicks. Now shoppers ask more from the websites they're on, their language, their currency, their way, or they're gone, so you'd better keep up with the clicks. All of a sudden, there are so many must-dos if you want to keep selling, like delivery there, no there, or there.
And make it tomorrow. First thing.
No time for borders. Gotta stay in control, to stay in the flow and continue to grow. But we'll help you. Keep up with the clicks.
ECOMBX.
It's all over the news. Tech companies are becoming energy giants, banks are becoming software companies, and fast food is getting into wellness. At PwC, we're making sure you're ready for what's next. With AI that's built for how your business works, we're designing built-for-you solutions with tech titans and trailblazers. And our 370,000 professionals are taking on the knowns, unknowns, and never saw that comings that are definitely coming. We're in it with you, sleeves rolled up, start to finish, so you can stay ahead, so you can protect what you built, so you can create new value. We build for what's next, so you can get there now. PwC, so you can.
The world needs ways to reduce carbon emissions.
Especially for heavy industry.
We're working on solutions in our own operations.
Like carbon capture.
And clean energy from hydrogen.
So who are we?
Believe it or not, ExxonMobil. And these solutions can help businesses like yours.
Or yours.
Or yours.
Heavy industry with low emissions. Let's deliver.
Με ελεύθερο πνεύμα, ευθύνη και θάρρος, βγήκαμε πρωταθλητές. Freedom 24. Γεννηθήκαμε στην Κύπρο, κατακτήσαμε την Ευρώπη.
Όταν τίποτα δεν σε σταματά, προχωράς μπροστά. Πιο δυνατά. Κάνεις περισσότερα. Και σπάς τα όρια. Το δίκτυο Nova 5G φτιάχτηκε για σένα. Για ταχύτητα και απεριόριστες δυνατότητες. Απεριόριστα data. Ταχύτητες 5G. Πάρε το Unlimited All τώρα από μόνο 28 ευρώ το μήνα. Μόνο στην Nova.
Το Nova Fiber φέρνει τη δύναμη της οπτικής ίνας. Όχι μόνο μέχρι το δρόμο, αλλά μέχρι και το σπίτι σου. Nova Fiber. Σούπερ σταθερό και σούπερ γρήγορο ίντερνετ για όλους ταυτόχρονα. Ακόμα και ασύρματα με τη δύναμη του Wi-Fi 6. Βάλε Nova Fiber πρόγραμμα στο σπίτι σου. Από μόνο 27,22 ευρώ το μήνα με Gigabit Voucher. Nova.
Check this out.
It hasn't been such a long time since people first started shopping online, and it was easy to keep up with the clicks. Little by little by little by more, the clicks added up to be more than the stores, and e-tailers worked harder than ever before because they had to keep up with the clicks. The clicks came from laptops, then tablets and phones, Monday through Sunday, office and home, 24 hours in every zone, and still they kept up with the clicks. Now shoppers ask more from the websites they're on, their language, their currency, their way, or they're gone, so you'd better keep up with the clicks. All of a sudden, there are so many must-dos if you want to keep selling, like delivery there, no there, or there.
And make it tomorrow, first thing.
No time for borders. Gotta stay in control to stay in the flow and continue to grow. But we'll help you. Keep up with the clicks.
ECOMBX.
It's all over the news. Tech companies are becoming energy giants, banks are becoming software companies, and fast food is getting into wellness. At PwC, we're making sure you're ready for what's next. With AI that's built for how your business works, we're designing built-for-you solutions with tech titans and trailblazers. And our 370,000 professionals are taking on the knowns, unknowns, and never saw that comings that are definitely coming. We're in it with you, sleeves rolled up, start to finish, so you can stay ahead, so you can protect what you built, so you can create new value. We build for what's next, so you can get there now. PwC, so you can.
The world needs ways to reduce carbon emissions.
Especially for heavy industry.
We're working on solutions in our own operations.
Like carbon capture.
And clean energy from hydrogen.
So who are we?
Believe it or not, ExxonMobil. And these solutions can help businesses like yours.
Or yours.
Or yours.
Heavy industry with low emissions. Let's deliver.
Με ελεύθερο πνεύμα, ευθύνη και θάρρος, βγήκαμε πρωταθλητές. Freedom 24. Γεννηθήκαμε στην Κύπρο, κατακτήσαμε την Ευρώπη.
Okay, so we want to put it on. All right. Yep.
Nectaria?
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Please take your seats. We're about to begin. What do you want, Nectaria? What do you want? You're right. Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 21st Annual Cyprus Summit and to Economist Impact as the host. My name is John Peat. I've chaired these summits a few times before, but it's a great pleasure to be back. And the weather this weekend has been fantastic. My sort of feeling about the Eastern Mediterranean region and the Mediterranean region generally is that there are two sort of halves of it. Economically, it looks quite good. I've been covering the Eurozone for over 20 years, and I'm used to the idea that people say, well, the North is okay, but the South is doing very badly. It seems to be the other way around. The South is okay. The North is doing quite badly, and particularly France and Germany. So that bit of the picture looks quite good to me. But the geopolitical background for all of us is, if anything, worse than it was a year ago. We have a possible peace settlement in Israel-Gaza, but we still have a war in Ukraine. We have trade differences, to put it mildly, with the American president. Turkey is taking another leap towards autocracy. So the geopolitical background is very testing, but the economy looks a bit better. That's my sort of general summary of where I think we are, and I'm sure that's what we will be discussing, including, we are about to discuss, both the background in the Middle East and the Cyprus problem, something we've been discussing, I would guess, for over 50 years. Joan, what do you think?
Yeah, thanks, John. Hi, everybody. My name's Joan Hoey. I've worked for the Economist Group for about 30 years, covering Europe, published our annual Democracy Index. Well, I certainly agree with you, John, that we're living at a time of great geopolitical uncertainty and global policy uncertainty as well. And few people know what's going to be happening next, at least in policy terms. And I don't think any country is really immune from the fallout from that uncertainty. But I think the good news about the Eastern Mediterranean region, they may not be immune to the geopolitical fallout, certainly, given the region that we're in. But I think the good news is that they are less exposed than others in Europe to the tariff wars and also the fallout from transatlantic rifts. Greece, Cyprus have also been growing very strongly, growing above the Eurozone speed limit, which I guess is not difficult, actually. But nevertheless, Greece has been growing at 2.3% the last few years. It's going to be something similar in 2025, and growth will pick up in 2026. So both Greece and Cyprus are benefiting from these very generous EU funds, and also from very dynamic, robust tourism sectors as well. And obviously, Greek shipping is still something to be reckoned with. I think the other notable thing compared with the northern economies is that there's been this incredible fiscal consolidation over the past few years. And, as we know, Greece has been delivering pretty substantial primary budget surpluses over the past few years, and will do so again in 2025, which I think is a testament to some of the quite innovative policy decisions that were taken by the government in its first term, especially the digitization, which carried on in the second term, which has yielded huge revenue rewards, really, which has enabled the government in turn to actually make quite sweeping tax cuts announced in Thessaloniki by the Prime Minister. So I think both Greece and Cyprus are in quite a strong position to ride out this uncertainty and actually to carry on and probably deliver stronger growth in 2026, benefiting from these funds in particular. So yeah, there is that north-south contrast, I think, and also the kind of economic and political one that you mentioned. So.
Very good. Our opening session is going to actually put together what were going to be two opening sessions. So we're going to talk both about the path from crisis to peace in the Middle East and navigating the Eastern Mediterranean and the geostrategic importance of a united Cyprus. So I'd like to invite Sami Shukri, Oren Anolek, Dimitris Avramopoulos, Amri Musa and Haris Georgiadis to come up to the podium. And we are joined also in a moment by Tzipi Livni, former Foreign Minister of Israel and former Leader of the Opposition, who is connecting to give us her own thoughts on the path from crisis to peace in the Middle East. Please.
Thank you. Except for this thing, speaking. One microphone.
Wherever you put me.
Fine. Yeah. Okay. Well, Tzipi Livni, if you can hear us, and I hope we can hear you, it's very good of you. We hoped you were...
Yeah.
Thoughts on the path from crisis to peace in the Middle East and where we are now. You have the floor.
Okay. Thank you. I'll do it shortly, and you have on the stage also other expertise that can share their views from different perspectives. When we are dealing about the Middle East right now, the focus now is on Gaza, but we need to understand that changing this situation into opportunities, we need to deal with the situation in Gaza, with the entire Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And it's crucial to say that giving an answer to one of these topics, I mean, if we can change the realities in Gaza, it doesn't mean that this is the end of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but clearly it can be the key of the beginning of solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And clearly, if we do that, then we can be in what Shimon Peres used to say, the new Middle East. I'm saying that it should be the obvious, but having Trump plan and listening to Trump speaking about this is the end of conflict and so on, well, it's not. It can be the beginning of, but Trump plan to Gaza doesn't solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but it's a good start. And I'm saying that after Trump's first term and creating and the Abraham Accord, so there is a reason for hope. The right strategy, and I think that this is very clear after October 7th, is that the right strategy should differentiate the moderates or pragmatic nations, organizations in the region from the jihadist, extremist Islamist group. And this should be the base of changing the situation into an opportunity. I think that it's clear right now that Hamas doesn't represent any national interest of the Palestinians in terms of facts. Israel withdrew from Gaza Strip in 2005. There was no one Israeli settler or Israeli soldier in Gaza, and nevertheless, Hamas took over, and nevertheless, instead of changing it into opportunity for the Palestinians in Gaza, they decided to attack Israel sovereign soil and do this horrific massacre in Israel. So clearly they cannot stay as an armed militia in Gaza, and they cannot stay in power in Gaza. And I think that it's also clear now that any agreement should also give an answer to this in terms of Israel security. The good news is that regionally, Iran, Hezbollah, and this axis that supported also Hamas and was part of these jihadist terror groups is weaker now after 2 years of war. Now I would like also to share my views, which are not the Israeli government policy. And I think that I should speak openly that there is a difference. Because if the right strategy is to work with the moderates or the pragmatics and to act against the extremists, and clearly Hamas is a problem. So looking on the Palestinian side, the more pragmatic, moderate side is the Palestinian Authority. They are weak, corrupted, need reforms, but yet speaking about the future of Gaza, speaking about another Palestinian regime, which is not a terror regime. So I believe that the Palestinian Authority should be part of it. Unfortunately, the Israeli government was completely against it during the last 2 years of war. And I believe that unfortunately, we wasted months after weakening militarily Hamas without having a prepared plan, reform Palestinian Authority, just because the Israeli government said no to any participation of the Palestinian Authority. I hope that Trump acknowledged that. I believe that the Palestinian Authority understands that they need to reform, but yet it's not enough. And there's a need for regional cooperation in order to strengthen the Palestinian Authority to act against Hamas within Gaza. Also, and this is a concern that I share with the government, although Israel accepted the plan, the participation of Turkey and Qatar, and they contributed a lot as mediators, but yet, especially Erdogan, that sees Hamas as more than a partner and not as a problem in Gaza. And therefore, it's very important that altogether it would be understood, agreed, and acted in accordance to the guidelines of Trump plan, saying that Hamas should not be in power. I also believe that that's also a time internationally to make Hamas, not only Hamas, I believe that this is the right thing to do also regarding Hezbollah, all these terrorist organizations that have on one hand a terror arm, on the other a political arm, need to choose between ballots or bullets. I mean, if you want to participate in election with all due respect, and there is no respect, you should stop being an armed militia, because the first rule of democracy is that the monopoly of the use of power is by the government. And in my negotiations with the Palestinian Authority in the past, they already agreed and understand that the future Palestinian state would be demilitarized. Now, if we are acting in accordance to Trump plan, this can be the basis also to open the door to negotiate with the Palestinian Authority about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Unfortunately, I don't think that there is eternal peace around the corner. I negotiated twice. Abu Mazen, Mahmoud Abbas, the chairperson of the Palestinian Authority, was not willing to say yes to just and fair plans that were on the table in 2008, and the last time was in 2014. But yet, this can be the beginning of hopefully a change. But as I said before, in Israel, the current Israeli government doesn't represent it. They represent annexation of the territories. They are not willing to speak with the Palestinian, or to work with the Palestinian Authority in order to open the door for a solution. The role of Saudi Arabia here can be dramatic, because clearly, in order to normalize their relations with Israel, they would demand or ask Israel to be more open or to take some steps toward solving the conflict with the Palestinians, or some step that would portray the path forward. And although after October 7th, most of the Israelis now are maybe more sensitive about the future, asking whether there is hope for peace at all. So if on the table, orchestrated by the US and Trump, we have a plan which would not be just, a vague plan, but with real step, with the contribution of regional stakeholders, as there is in the plan, and then we can have hope or see the beginning of something. And of course, this is something that serves the interest of Israel and serves the interest of the Palestinians, especially those that are living in Gaza. And they also deserve some hope. My fear, and I will stop here, is that the feeling is that the plan for now is too vague, nothing is happening, and therefore, without replacing Hamas with a PA or regional stakeholders, Hamas is in power. And as long as Hamas is in power, they will do everything to rearm themselves. This is the nature of this organization, and we are losing time. We used to say money time, but this is life and death time. And I hope that without spending more time, all the regional stakeholders with Israel will act in order to change this and to take Hamas off power, demilitarize Gaza, and for sure this will take time. And I hope that the Israeli government also will join, not only by acting against Hamas, but also by working with or enabling or agreeing that the Palestinian Authority will have a role in Gaza and in the future. That's it. So there is some hope, but it's very complicated. It's a very complicated jigsaw with different players, stakeholders, interests. But if the US would orchestrate it by pushing, tempting, I don't know how to say, the different players, this can be the beginning of a change, and from this horrific day of October 7th, this can turn into opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for ending on a somewhat hopeful note. And now I return to Sami Shukri to, do you wish to make a statement?
Well, thank you very much.
Please.
I'm grateful for the invitation to the Cyprus Summit, and hope that this will be a successful event as it has started to be. As mentioned, the last 2 years have been dramatic in changing the dynamics of the geopolitical structures in the Middle East. They've been a painful reminder of the human toll that is taken by the continuation of the conflict, and it has increased the sense of insecurity and instability overall in the region. And I believe that any future perspective has to be taken into account the various dynamics and developments, not only the situation in Gaza, but the conditions in the West Bank, the projection of Israeli military power beyond its immediate vicinity, its military activity as relates to Syria, Yemen, Iran, and elsewhere. But having said that, definitely the 20-point peace plan that was proposed by President Trump brought to an end the very painful military conflict in Gaza and the subsequent impact on the Palestinians in Gaza, which is absolutely apocalyptic in its nature. Estimates 90% of all dwellings have been demolished. Over 65 to 70,000 have been killed, 20,000 children in the process, and the famine and hunger that exists. So putting an end to the military activity by both sides agreeing to what is primarily a ceasefire that was much needed, that both sides seem to be adhering to, despite the constant or continuing military actions by both, but it is the insistence. I think the most predominant issue is what constitutes US policy. This is probably the first time in the history of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict where the United States has demonstrated a political will to enforce a resolution, even though partial, to the ongoing conflict, and its ability to leverage the Israeli position to acquiesce to the proposal and to accept its implementation. Now, whether that goes further in how the peace plan will be implemented, and as the conventional saying goes, the devil is in the details, and it is quite an intricate proposal in terms of demilitarization of Gaza, in terms of governance, in terms of reconstruction, in meeting the humanitarian needs of the population, and in maintaining a sense of accountability so that the rule-based international order continues to be supported. There's a degree, I believe, of impunity related to much of the military activity that has been undertaken, and without addressing these issues, the agreement in itself does not foreclose the need that the international community upholds what is deemed as the commonality of values, and takes steps to uphold the decisions of the ICJ and to uphold the principles of human rights and the rights of the Palestinian people. Now, the end of the conflict is something that we have sought for decades, and it is certainly not going to be achieved by purely addressing the conditions and the situation that exists in Gaza. And it is somewhat worrying that the aspirations and the rights of the Palestinian people were contained as seems an afterthought into the 20-point plan. It came right at the end, and the conditions associated with the path towards the implementation of the Palestinian self-determination and statehood are certainly not in conformity with the international community's overall consensus in this regard. Again, the issue of further recognition of the Palestinian state by some important members of the international community is a welcome development, but how is it going to be translated into practical measures that might encourage here the Israeli government that has very explicitly indicated its refusal of any form of Palestinian statehood. So how is that recognition going to be translated into practical measures, tangible measures to facilitate what is the international consensus related to the recognition of a Palestinian state? Again, conditionality is related to the Palestinian Authority. Now, the Palestinian Authority, as Minister Libni has indicated, does constitute the moderate segment of the Palestinian Authority, one that has been undermined consistently by the Israeli government, by incursions into the West Bank, by withholding of taxes, by constant pressures, and now, again, the highlighting of the need for reform. Reform on what basis and what is the criteria, and when will the international community consider that that reform has been undertaken, is all very vague, even in the 20-point plan. It doesn't really set out the parameters or the criteria for what would constitute that reform and its acceptance. So again, it seems to be a subjective issue that's going to be tailored to political considerations rather than any structural dynamics. Again, it is a starting point, and if we necessarily have to deal with this current situation in Gaza, that it should catapult into a more active and determined role by this US administration to go beyond Gaza and to deal with the fundamental underlying issues related to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, primarily the creation of a Palestinian state. The United States is able, as has been demonstrated, to extract from both sides the necessary compromise and acceptance of what is deemed, and I won't say equitable, because there is no equitability when it comes to any comparison between the state of Israel with its institutional abilities and its military capabilities and the Palestinian Authority or the Palestinians who are still under the blunt occupation of Israel. But again, it does give us hope, but I think we also have to be cognizant of the many hurdles that we're going to have to deal with. First of all, to implement all of the various segments of the 20-point plan, and that we do so in a manner that does not cause the separation between Gaza and the West Bank, and thereby, I think, consolidate an objective of Israel over the last decades, is primarily to have created this division and to have utilized this division as a way to offset the potential of the creation of a Palestinian state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shukri. And now, Ambassador Anulik. Tzipi Livni made clear she was not speaking for the Israeli government, but some comments of your own.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege for me to be here and to join this distinguished panel in this discussion on the path from crisis to peace in the Middle East. And for those of us who actually live in the region, this is not some kind of an abstract topic. This is our daily life, one that carries both, I would say, deep pain, but also deep hope. The Abraham Accord, signed in 2020 between Israel and several Arab countries, such as the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco, as well as Israel's earlier peace agreements with Egypt and Jordan, are living proof that normalization and partnership and coexistence are possible in the Middle East. Regrettably, as was said here before, the past 2 years reminded us how fragile progress can be. Mrs. Livni spoke about the horrific massacre of October 7, 2023, that was carried out by Hamas, and this was the trigger to why we found ourselves in war, and Israel was forced into this war, and this was a very dark day for Israel, and I think for the whole world. Yet, I would say that here lies a paradox. Out of war, a new opportunity can emerge, and out of destruction sometimes comes the moral clarity to rebuild differently. And President Trump's 20-point peace plan is not a magic formula, but it does offer a framework that may help move us from managing crisis into transforming relationships. Israel approaches this moment with a clear conviction. Security must be the foundation of peace, and no people can reach out a hand in peace when rockets are rained on their homes. No nation can tolerate terror tunnels beneath its communities or its citizens taken hostage. And Israel will always defend its citizens firmly, decisively, and unapologetically. I want to make one more emphasis here. We did not fight the Palestinian people. We had a fight against a jihadi death cult. Hamas was, and still is, willing to sacrifice the people of Gaza and turn their lives into a nightmare in the futile pursuit of its jihadi dream. The October 7th massacre is also a brutal reminder that extremism, like Hamas, does not soften when it gains power or territory. And even today, Hamas continues to oppress the people of Gaza, and you all see, I think, the mass executions carried out by Hamas. Now, I would like to quote 2 sentences from point number 13 in President Trump's plan, because I think they are crucial for the success of this plan. And this is the quote: Hamas and other fractions agree to not have any role in the governance of Gaza, directly, indirectly, or in any form. All military, terror, and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapon production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. Now, it's a massive challenge, it's an immense challenge, but we need to ensure that Gaza does not continue to be a base for terror. And if it remains governed by terrorists, there will be no peace. This is why exactly Israel supports the principles of President Trump's plan: disarmament, demilitarization, and de-radicalization, complemented by rehabilitation, reconstruction, and economic development. And now I want to broaden the scope beyond Gaza, because October 7 massacre was also made very clear Iran's long-term strategy. Iran had built what we call the Ring of Fire, a network of proxies promoting the goal of the destruction of Israel while distancing Iran itself from the fighting. Hamas was one of these proxies, and the Palestinian terror organization leaders expected that by launching a massive assault, Iran's other proxies would follow, bringing Israel to its knees. Standing against this axis of extremism led by Iran was a coalition of moderate countries. Some of them already had peace agreements with Israel. And despite harsh rhetoric at times, these countries have remained committed to those agreements and to the strategic choice they made by signing these agreements. They understand well, those countries in the region, that the threat posed by the radical jihadi camp is not just Israel's problem, it's their problem as well. And Iran's malign influence remains a central obstacle. Tehran's sponsorship of terror, its supply of weapons, funding, and training to the proxies continue to undermine the sovereignty of Lebanon, of Syria, of Iraq, of Yemen, and other countries. And in all these places, it is the local population that pays the price for Iran's ambitions. Yet today, there is an opening, and across the region, there is public discourse that is shifting. People are speaking more openly about disarmament, about accountability, and about the desire for normal life. And a new hope is emerging, fragile, but real. But I want to be honest, which is something maybe not typical for a diplomat. This window of opportunity we see today was not opened by words, it was opened by resolve and decisive action. It required a painful and violent confrontation in which Israel, while defending itself, dismantled this ring of fire, this network of terror that had long threatened us and held entire societies hostage in Gaza, in Lebanon, and in other places. Force alone cannot create peace, but sometimes it is the only way to remove those who stand violently in the path of peace. The people of the region now have a chance to reclaim their future. By weakening the chokehold of extremist and terrorist forces, space is opened for moderation, for dialogue and renewal, and diplomacy has a chance to succeed precisely because terror and extremism suffered a massive blow. And alongside those moderate countries I mentioned before that are already committed to peace, other countries in the Arab and Muslim world are signaling a growing openness to joining Abraham Accords. And I think that the lesson is clear. Engagement with Israel brings tangible benefits: investment, innovation, security, and stability. And the Abraham Accords taught us that normalization is not the end of the conflict, it is the beginning of a new logic, a logic in which Israelis and Arabs innovate together, invest together, build together, and even dream together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. And now, Dimitris Avramopoulos, your turn. I don't know if you want to go on into the Eastern Mediterranean and so on, and the Cyprus problem now, but you could intervene again.
They are all interconnected, because when we talk about the Eastern Mediterranean, we cannot ignore that we are in Cyprus now, and Cyprus is back on the epicenter of all these geostrategic changes, which has raised the strategic importance of this island And we'll talk about it later as far as the main objective, which is to see this island be reunited one day. It will be beneficial for everybody, because a united Cyprus means that we can overcome all these problems in Eastern Mediterranean, starting not only from the conflict in Gaza or in other parts of the Mediterranean, but also of the fact that Eastern Mediterranean has one big problem to resolve: the delimitation of the exclusive economic zones, which is a part of the complex of the situation here. So let's see how can we foresee the reunification in Ireland, which is beneficial for everybody. Everything passes from here. Energy routes, interconnection with other parts of the world, sea lines, but this has to be understood by Turkey. Turkey must realize that it's beneficial for this country to have this problem resolved. It will take time, but at least there is a hope on the horizon after the election of the new leader of the Turkish Cypriot community. Let's hope that it will be proven maybe the most hopeful development, given the fact that everything starts from the dialogue between the two communities. But let's go back to what we said before. Well, regarding the situation as it was described before by our panelists, the situation is very complex right now and became even worse after what happened in Gaza. I'm afraid that this very good initiative undertaken with the Abraham agreements could be back on the table as soon as possible. This can lead to a better understanding, but how can you overcome the deep wounds that have been created during the last dramatic years in this part of the world? It is difficult, because beyond politics and geopolitics and all these wishful thinkings, there is something that we cannot ignore: the traumatized, emotional, peoples in the region. So the Abraham agreements were on the right track. But in order to move forward now, I think it is the moment to decide to put also Palestinians on board. They cannot be separated from the whole process, because right now they are not there in this dialogue that is going to start. We have to understand that everybody in this region has a role to play. But as I said, the emotional part cannot be overcome easily, because whatever is divided by blood, it cannot be forgotten the day after. It will take at least 2 or 3 generations. And the emotional memories are very strong in everything, including geopolitics. Coming back to what I said in the beginning about Cyprus. We all believed in the past the Mediterranean was in the margins of the global interest. No, it's not anymore. It is not a marginal issue. Mediterranean has come at the epicenter of global developments. So all countries in the region have to realize that it is the moment to make a step forward. In the past, there were some initiatives, but the Mediterranean area should be more interconnected among all of us on the basis of common historical experiences, but most importantly, on the basis of our common aspirations. Here on this panel, you have representatives not only of Cyprus, of Greece, but also Egypt, one of the most important stakeholders in the region in terms of stability. Also, Israel, who plays a very important role. But I believe it's not far away the day that we must all decide to make something more concrete. The proposal to create a new form of cooperation, a new platform of cooperation in the region with a new conference with the participation of all stakeholders, even among countries that understanding it's not very easily achieved. And I believe that it was on the right direction, the proposal made by the Greek Prime Minister some days ago. But will it be possible to start talking to each other, to understand that we live in a common, vital space for all of us? So the Mediterranean is coming back, as I said, at the heart of the global developments, as I said in the beginning, on energy, on sea lines, on everything. But the precondition is, of course, to establish trust. Trust is missing among all stakeholders in the region because we still have on our shoulders the burden of our past. But this is the role of leaders today, how to open new horizons by getting rid of what was inherited to us by the past. Is it easy to happen? It is not easy. I'm a politician myself. And I know that in politics, what defines the role of leaders is what is considered as national interest. And this is the problem today in all these countries, because national interest is not always in accordance with the human interest, with the real needs of the people. And last thing that I would like to mention, where is Europe? Europe should be reasserted in this part of the world, but Europe is weak. Europe has not managed to have one voice to speak. Europe is fragmented, but Europe should understand one day that the Mediterranean is part of its vital space. So they have to be more present here. But in order to do that, they have to overcome their domestic problems. I said that given my experience as European Commissioner till 2019, where I saw the beginning of the end of Europe as we were used to that in the past. Fragmentation, division, and of course, the rise of all these hardcore extremist powers and political parties that unfortunately, in the way they think, they give us the impression that they want Europe to go back, to revert back to its dark pages. So Europe is not here as it should be. The countries in the region should talk to each other in a spirit of trust, and leaders should share the same vision for a new world that we want to make. And since it was in the past the cradle of all big achievements on mankind's history, it was Mediterranean, let's make it again. It is not difficult. It depends on whether there is political will, there is strategic plan, and there is, let's say, among the politicians, something that it is difficult to be achieved, to get rid of the so-called political cost and start thinking in a different way. Finally, the 20 points plan of President Trump should be considered. There are some good points there, but it will take time in order to be implemented. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Avramopoulos. Now we turn to Amri Moussa, former Foreign Minister and former Secretary General of the League of Arab States. Please.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really very happy to be back in Nicosia after so many years. I used to visit Nicosia and Cyprus at the heydays of non-alignment and the cooperation and the coordination between Egypt and Nicosia, between Egypt and Cyprus at that time. So inasmuch as I remember so many debates, discussions, coordination, etc., between Egypt and Cyprus, I hope that Cyprus would also play a principal role in the months and perhaps few years to come to build peace in the Middle East. Peace based on the consensus of the world that it cannot be attained without a Palestinian state, a viable Palestinian state. I think this is the point that all of us have to work for. What took place in the last few years, last couple of years, was a clear evidence that peace cannot be attained without bearing in mind the considerations, the rights, the obligations of all parties, including the Palestinian party and the Israeli party. It is also important to remind this august audience that inasmuch as initiatives are being proposed. Most important of them is what President Trump has initiated and in fact succeeded in establishing ceasefire in Gaza after 2 years of destruction, of violation of international law, and in fact doing havoc with the whole system, legal system of the world and UN system. But again, we have an opportunity to establish peace. Point to begin was what President Trump has done by initiating, insisting, building the ceasefire agreement, which was signed in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh, last month. Then we have a beginning. It is so difficult, but it could be done. The 20 points proposed by President Trump contain issues that will have to be tackled and agreements that have to be achieved in order to establish the balance needed for real peace to prevail. That is, a Palestinian state, a viable Palestinian state, a viable system of security for all, and to build the possibility and plan for Israel and Palestine to live together. It is possible. It is not that difficult. But of course, there are forces against that in the region and perhaps also around the region. The possibilities are there. But we cannot reach peace without giving the Palestinians their rights and Palestinians and Israelis and everybody their security. I am among those who believe that the beginning is there. The ceasefire, despite the violations, daily violations by the Israeli army, but still there is an opportunity to build that peace, to start the process for peace. Peace means end of military occupation of the West Bank, of Gaza, and build an edifice of cooperation, live together, accepting the existence of the State of Israel and its membership in the Society of Middle Eastern Nations, and giving the Palestinians their right of self-determination and to live as a state, respectable people, and to work together with us to build a new Middle East. We are here in Eastern Mediterranean, and I believe that we have to work to get both the MENA region and Eastern Mediterranean as one large region, based on peace, respect of the rights of all members of the family of nations of this vast region, and start opening up, start working together, start building not only peace or security, but also prosperity. And this is possible. Of course, I see that the current Israeli government cannot speak about peace convincingly. What is going on in the West Bank, as what was going on in Gaza, is a very clear evidence that still there are forces, leaders, officials that do not accept the idea of peace or real peace. I hope that the initiative of President Trump, starting the ceasefire and proposing the 20 points, should be borne in mind with a lot of care. Among those points was a reference to the rights of the Palestinians to self-determination. This is a basic point. If there is a state of Israel and other states in the region, Palestinians should have their own state. And if we have this as a goal, so many changes should take place. Hamas was mentioned, that their days are over. I believe that the forces in Israel that insist on occupation, insist on changing the nature of the West Bank and Gaza, should be stopped. We on the Arab side are ready to start a process of cooperation with Israel. The Arab Initiative, the famous Arab Initiative of 2002, was clear that we are ready to live with Israel, to cooperate with Israel, to normalize relations with Israel, to recognize Israel, if Israel also show readiness to carry the responsibilities of peace. The issue is difficult because of the absence of a party in Israel that really believes that peace should come and that the Palestinians should have a state and that we all have to live in cooperation and doing whatever we can to have the Middle East as a stage for peace and cooperation. Is this possible? Yes, of course it is possible. But when I hear ministers in the Israeli cabinet, members of the cabinet, talking about the annexation of the West Bank, in addition to what has been declared about the annexation of other Arab territories, one should be very worried because this will take us nowhere and it is impossible to be accepted or to stay as a possibility of life in this region. I am, despite all this, I am optimistic because now the world has awakened, has witnessed the dangers inherent in the continuity of the situation in the Middle East as is, meaning occupation of Palestinian lands, the plans to even expand this occupation, annexation of Arab lands, which will certainly bring us back to confrontation and bloody confrontation, which nobody, including all of us, of course, would wish to see. We want peace to prevail. We want the Palestinians to have a state, viable state, and end this conflict. Now that President Trump has started influencing, proposing good beginning, which is a ceasefire, the next step should be to build on that ceasefire and prevent its violations. We can build on it. If so, then we have an opportunity. This opportunity will have to be seized by all of us, by all of us. The new Middle East, the new vast area called Middle East and Eastern Mediterranean will benefit a lot. But before that, we have to be sure that the rights of all parties will be respected. We cannot have peace just to serve the goals of one party. This will not be done. When we hear some on the Israeli side talking about annexation, talking about the refusal to accept that Palestinian people must have their own rights, when we hear them, we see that this is a language of the past. The language of the future should be, yes, Israel has the right to exist as a member of the Middle Eastern family of nations. But Israel has to accept that others have the same right, and the Palestinians in particular have the same right. If the Israelis can accept that, I believe everything will fall into place. The solution is there, very clear. A viable Israeli state is there already, and we need a viable Palestinian state in the territories occupied since 1967. Two viable states, and when I say, by the way, viable Palestinian state, I mean a responsible Palestinian state, because viability comes with responsibility that they have to play with all of us to build a new peaceful region in the Middle East. Can Israel play that game? Until now, many of us doubt that. When we hear them talking about expansion and the Knesset is about to issue a resolution to annex the West Bank and to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state, how can we work for peace for that? This will never be accepted, but we will be entering again and again into the same confrontational, bloody conflict. I request all of you, I urge all of you to again read the news coming from the occupied territories in Gaza and in the West Bank. We need this attitude to change. The idea, the strange idea that peace comes only if the other party surrenders. The other party will not surrender. So let us hope that our colleagues all over the Middle East and here in Eastern Mediterranean, including those in Israel, that they should know that there is an opportunity we have to seize. If we destroy this opportunity, we will see more of 7th of October and 8th of October and 10th of October, because why should the Palestinians surrender? They have the same right as other people to live in dignity and in their own state, not denying the existence of the state of Israel also. So just think of it. Why not having a Palestinian state, viable Palestinian state, responsible one, because viability means responsibility. This is the solution. There will be no other solution unless we work together and call on all parties to come to their senses and establish peace, live together, work together. That would benefit all of us as individuals, would benefit people in this region, Eastern Mediterranean, will benefit all the people, in fact, around the world. And you see how the young generation around the world is revolting, is insisting that there must be peace, fair peace in the Middle East. I hope I'm right, and I wish you all the best, and I'm so happy to be in Nicosia again. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Musa. And now, finally, Haris Georgiadis, Chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs here, and also a former finance minister. Please.
Well, thank you, John. It's a pleasure to participate in this discussion. And taking on from where Minister Musa has just left, let me say that I believe that peace is possible. And peace in the region is possible because you, Egypt and Israel, have shown us that it is possible almost half a century ago. Egypt and Israel fought, but then they were brave enough to take decisions that led to peace between Israel and the largest, most significant Arab country, Egypt, a country which we consider as a friend, a partner, and a pillar of stability, as much as we consider our relation with Israel to be equally strategically significant. So it is possible. It has shown to be possible. But that peace became possible when we had brave leaders. Some of them paid with their life for the decisions that they took to compromise and to reach to peace. I also agree with what the minister has said, that now there is a glimmer of hope. And there is a glimmer of hope because Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, which was moving the scenes, moving the pawns behind the scenes, have taken a blow. Because I definitely agree that there are extremist voices in Israeli politics and even in Israeli government which are not helping. But how can we even discuss the prospects for peace when it is Hamas and Hezbollah and the mullahs of Iran who are calling the shots in the region? So today there is indeed a glimmer of hope. Dear John, dear friends, I would also say that this is a region, the East Med and the Middle East is a region which matters. It is not a geopolitically insignificant region. It is a region of where we have major centers of population, of maritime and energy routes, but mainly it is a region where we can see wars and conflicts and terror, or we can see prospects for collaboration and cooperation in energy, investment across the fields. Whether this region takes the positive, optimistic route or remains engulfed in wars and terror depends on how we act. Dimitris Avramopoulos quite rightly said that today it is the epicenter of global attention, and it is a region which calls for this attention. Well, if it is so important, a region which is leading to this mobilization, how did we allow Hamas to take hold and using Western money, European money that we were sending as aid to construct this terror network, which basically not only led to bloodshed and terror and humanitarian tragedy, but disrupt the stability of the region? Did we not see, or did we pretend not to see? How did we allow Lebanon, another important regional actor, another friend of Cyprus, to be for years under the rule of Hezbollah? and the Assad regime and the Iranian influence. The point I am making is that if we are to be successful in the region, we basically need to wake up. I am referring to the West, I'm referring to Europe, I'm referring to America. We cannot allow such developments to happen, and our reaction being one of disengagement and distance. How can we allow one country after the other in this region to come under the category of failed states without our active involvement in favor of the moderate forces in the region? Yes, this is a crucial region, and we must do whatever we can to ensure that it takes the positive path, which I do believe, and history has shown that it is possible. In this region and in this prospect, definitely Cyprus and Greece have a role to play. So in Cyprus, our foreign policy for too long was monothematic. We used to simply ask for the understanding and the help and sympathy. Something with my mic? No, it's on.
You're okay.
So we were monothematic, asking for the help and sympathy regarding our own problem. Now we are finding a way, despite the still open wound of the Turkish invasion, to highlight our relevance. So Cyprus is highlighting a role which is positive, a role which is constructive, despite the fact that we still have this open problem with Turkey. And I know time is out, but since I mentioned Turkey, we cannot have a substantial discussion on the prospects of the region without also discussing and thinking and deciding on a much more credible policy regarding Turkey. So this is a country which has openly been supporting and financing Hamas and the other destabilizing regions. This is the country, this is the country whose leader the other day, responding to the German Chancellor who mentioned the Copenhagen criteria as the path to EU membership, responded, but we have the Ankara criteria, so we don't care about the Copenhagen criteria. This is a crucial country for the stability of the region, very significant country, but at the moment we are seeing a country which is behaving in a very destabilizing way, and regrettably both Greece and Cyprus are on the receiving end of policies which show that this is not yet a partner we can count on in this effort we must undertake to transform the Eastern Mediterranean region into a region of peace and prosperity and prospect, and not a region of conflicts and war.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing in Turkey at the end. Dimitris, do you want to comment? Because I have a question too, but you comment first.
A remark. What we discuss here today has to do with how the international community is organized. After the Second World War, we had managed to set up United Nations. It was a strong organization. And in the meantime, one of the biggest achievements was multilateralism. Sorry to say. Multilateralism is vanishing today. Unfortunately, most of the governments are fortifying behind their borders. And I'm afraid that if there is no consensus on a global scale of what's happening in the world, because everything is globalized, whether we like it or not, whatever happens here has a direct impact on the other part of the world. But what is the role of international organizations today? I'm afraid it is not as powerful and influential as it was before. So I think a new start should take place all around the world. how to bring back on the table, around the table, all the stakeholders. It is not easy. We are far away from that today. And this part, this neighborhood, depends a lot on what the decisions are in New York or in Brussels or anywhere else. And that's why I referred before in my initial remarks about the European Union. The European Union, unfortunately, is very weak, cannot assert its will in this part of the world. A lot of rhetoric, a lot of nice words, but nothing in practical terms. I had experienced it when I had to cope with migration in the European Union. Just 5 months after my arrival in Brussels, we had the very first uncontrolled migratory flows and the very first terrorist attack. So I was the person to handle it. Europe had been taken by surprise. And what is the outcome of this period of approximately 10 years? Still, Europe cannot manage migration. Still, Europe cannot manage something that has to do with this part of the world. To complete the European project by adopting common foreign and defense policy. How can the European voice be heard when there are 27 different voices within the European Union? The same is with the United Nations. The United Nations, unfortunately, is going back to even before its creation. How can we revive international cooperation? Because what's happening here, it's not bilateral. It's not between Israel and the Arab world, Israel and Palestine. It has to do with the rest of the world. Everything is disrupted in the Mediterranean. Energy, sea lines, everything. So we are here today to talk about the future, not only of the region, but of a big part of the world. And this is the role of leaders. Leaders have to make bold decisions, as I said before, to get rid of the so-called political cost. For instance, how can a prime minister in Israel or in another Arab country can go and say what he really thinks behind closed doors? When I said that, sorry, Mr. Ambassador, we have to put the Palestinians on board, they are out of this dialogue. They have a right, as Mr. Musa said before, but on the other hand, we have to accept that Israel has its own physical and historical right to exist. So this would lead one day to a better understanding between the peoples of the region, as it has happened before. In Europe, we managed to get rid of what happened during the Second World War, and wise people after 1945, they gathered around the table and said, okay, let's give an end to two tragedies, to global wars, and set up something new, a space of stability, of peace, cooperation, of growth. And it was achieved. Doesn't matter whether the European project is not complete, but it was a good paradigm. And talking about Cyprus, and I close here, Cyprus is the miniature of Europe, if we really want to see it through another optical prism. And I say again, my dear friend Mr. Georgiadis, that if the Cyprus issue is not resolved, there will be a pending issue for the whole region. And if we continue on the path as it is shown by the Turkish side, 2 states, it will be a thorny issue, a division issue for the years to come. So if we really want to create an environment of stability and peace and cooperation, we have to start from Cyprus. And then, at the same time, to move on a better understanding between two peoples who deserve and have the right to exist in the Middle East. They are there, Palestinians and Israelis, for the last 3,000 years before Europe was invented. Before Europe was invented, and we all know history, we know what happened at that time. We cannot continue like this. So I come back to what I said, we need leaders with vision, take decisions, move forward, and how can they overcome what I said, the emotional problem.
I think Mr. Musa wants to join in, but I would like to hear from the other panelists what they think about, particularly about the role of Europe. I mean, it is very striking that when it comes to the Middle East process, it is the United States alone. That when it comes to the Cyprus problem, it is the United Nations alone. The European Union is the biggest trade partner, the biggest source of money. It has a tentative foreign minister in the High Representative, Kaja Kallas. It has an external action service. It is increasingly playing a defense and security role. And I might add, before you comment on the role of Europe, could Britain play a role too? Britain has a history in this country. It has a history in the Middle East as well. I, like many others, regret Britain's departure from the European Union. But when it comes to foreign policy, Britain is working increasingly closely with the European Union. So could Europe and Britain play a more constructive role and a more important role in both the Middle East peace process and maybe in the Cyprus problem? Mr. Musa, you wanted to say something. Could you say something about Europe as well?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. I assume that this is the merger of two panels.
Yes.
So we have more than 2 hours. We have enough time.
We have something like 20 minutes of discussion.
To just discuss properly this issue, which is so important and so vital. The issue of the negative forces that you referred to in the region, I believe we have to be honest about that. We have to add to those negative forces people like Smotrich, Ben Gvir, and the others. They are really sowing havoc in the whole work to establish peace. So when we consider Mr. A in Iran or Mr. B somewhere else, so Mr. C should be mentioned, C, the one in Israel. They are also sowing havoc in the whole thing. That is why so many of those who work in this field just to establish peace consider that the current Israeli governing establishment cannot comprehend the dimensions of peace in the region. Therefore, they will always work against it. This is one observation. The second observation is about the shape of the Palestinian entity. It has to be a state, a Palestinian state, and a viable state, because viability means responsibility. If it is not viable, if it is weak, just an authority, they are not going to help us in building a new region, a new Middle East, with cooperation among all the members, including Israel, of course, the Arab world and the rest. The third one is about how are we going to establish that peace? Is the Israeli government ready, really, to talk peace with what is going on in the West Bank or in Jerusalem, let alone in Gaza? They have to change. Their mind has to change. We cannot establish peace, cannot come with people like that. You mentioned several people of that kind, but you didn't mention the Israeli partners of those people have to work against peace, and they want to stay there and not to withdraw, not to leave the Palestinians live their own life. This has to be changed. The change of mind of the governing Israeli alliance is a must. Otherwise, there will be no peace. They do not talk the language of peace. So I called on the forces of peace in Israel to join the forces of peace in the Arab world and in the rest of the world, including in particular in the Eastern Mediterranean here. So we work together, forces of peace in Israel, forces of peace in the Arab world, forces of peace in the whole of Mediterranean. And you are aware, of course, of what is going on in the whole world of demonstrations and support for the Palestinians and protest against what happened in Gaza. So we need you. We need everybody of the right mind that we have to stop that. We have to get into a process that would establish peace as quickly as we can, because the more we delay, the more dangers will threaten us.
And perhaps Mr. Georgiadis could comment. I think perhaps Mr. Georgiadis and then the ambassador. And I'm also going to look for one or two questions. We have about 10 or 15 minutes. Mr. Georgiadis.
Actually, I think I did mention the ministers in
did.
Israeli politics and Israeli government as being not helpful to the peace process, and that's my view. But if we want to make sure that the extremists in Israeli politics, and I believe there are extremists in Israeli politics,
in the authority, in the government,
yes, continue to call the shots, then we should, then we can just continue allowing Hamas and Hezbollah to do what they are doing. Because this Israeli government has accepted the Trump proposal. It does call for the disarmament of Hamas and its removal from any role in Gaza. Well, Hamas has not disarmed. So it has to, we must make sure, and actually all regional actors, including Egypt, by the way, they have to make sure that Hamas is disarmed. Otherwise, we are playing the game of the extremists and the hardliners and those who do not actually want peace. So I would actually join you in being even more critical for hardline voices in Israeli politics if Hamas was actually out of the picture. If it is still in the picture, my arguments against those in Israel who oppose the two-state solution is weakened because they are finding the perfect excuse in the continuation of the presence and the role of Hamas and its... Definitely. Mr. Musa, when you made peace, when Egypt and Israel made peace, it took two to tango. We need two to tango again today in the Middle East. Same goes, by the way, because I also fully agree with Dimitris Avramopoulos that if we achieve in reuniting Cyprus, everyone would stand to benefit, not only the Cypriots. But again, in Cyprus, it takes two to tango. We cannot resolve the Cyprus problem alone so long as Erdogan continues to have his own revisionist visions, which regrettably are playing out in full effect.
Ambassador, you may comment on the Israeli government. We always used to be told in Britain that one of the problems in Israel is proportional representation, too much power to extremist parties.
Well, I will start with this, but I will move on from this. Israel is a vibrant democracy. You can see what is happening, and the government in Israel eventually has its policy, and the policy is being decided by the prime minister. Voices here, voices there. Eventually, there's a policy of the government. And the policy of the government now was to accept the Trump plan, and I'm quoting the Trump plan. While Gaza redevelopment advances, and when the PA reform program is faithfully carried out, the condition may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood. This was the plan. Israel said yes to this plan. So we need to be accurate about the facts, first of all. Secondly, I think we need to go beyond slogans. The rights, a state will solve the problem. We look around us in this neighborhood. And what we mostly see in our neighborhood are failed states. States that we have militants with weapons that actually call the shots in these states. We saw it in Gaza, we saw it in Lebanon, we see it in Iraq, we see it in Yemen, in other places. And we know also what was the history in Gaza itself after Israel completely withdrew from Gaza in 2005. What happened in Gaza in 2005 when the PA was in power? Within 2 years, there was a coup d'etat in which Hamas people shot Palestinians and threw them from the roofs, and they took power over Gaza. Can you tell me this is not going to happen in the West Bank as well? Can you promise me that we're not going to have a terror base in the West Bank? Of course you cannot, because if you see the reality, you understand what it means. So you are telling me you need to agree now, not before all this is happening to a Palestinian state. This might be that you are actually committing suicide, but please commit suicide for us because of the rights and what we all need to do. So I think we need to be more realistic about the facts. These are the facts. There is no power today that can actually be a viable government in the Palestinian side. There is a plan on the table that speaks about a process that might one day lead us there, and this was agreed by both sides. And I also think that if an alien would have come to this room and listened to some of this conversation, he would say, wow, there's only one country in the Middle East, and all the problem is there. It's only because of Israel that nothing happened in the Middle East. Nothing else. There's no other problem. And I ask myself, is this really the situation? Why is it so easy to take one element, focus on this, and just say, this is the problem for everything? There is no Iran in the Middle East, there is no Hezbollah, there is no Hamas, there are no Houthis, there are no other problems at all. There's no development problem, there's no progress problem, only one problem, and if we only solve this problem, everything will be wonderful. So I think we need to look at reality in a bit more realistic way. This is not the situation. I want to remind also people that don't have amnesia, what happened here, not just in the last 2 years, I'll come back to this, what happened here in the last 50 years? Because Israel showed again and again and again and again and again that it is willing to speak peace, to find solution, to withdraw from territory if needed, if there is a partner. We did it with Egypt, we did it with Jordan, we did it in the Abraham Accords, we did it with the Palestinians as well, and what was the result of this as well? So don't tell us that we cannot speak peace. Of course we can. Of course we want peace. Look at the map. 10 million Israelis, 300 million Arabs around us. Of course we want peace. It just makes sense to us. But we also want to live. We also want to survive. We also want to have security. And if you're telling me that my hometown is Ra'anana. Ra'anana is about 15 kilometers from the West Bank and about 15 kilometers from the sea. This is how the width of Israel. You want me that I need to take a chance on the lives of my children because of some slogans? We saw what happened in Gaza 2 years ago when Hamas crossed the border into Israel, not occupied areas, and slaughtered people. This is the mindset in Israel. Israelis now do not want to be slaughtered again this way. And if you don't understand what is our mindset, you don't understand how to speak with us at all. And by this, I want to take it back to the issue of Europe that you mentioned before. I think that when it comes to the region, Europe does not speak in one voice. There are different voices within Europe. If I need to say something very general, if Europe wants to play a constructive role, they should treat Israel as a partner, not by saying this, but actually acting this way. Engage with us, discuss with us, speak with us, negotiate with us. Do not threaten us. Do not bring sanctions to the table. This is not how you treat a partner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shukri.
Hopefully within the time constraints, just to make some remarks. And here again, I think it is an oversimplification of some of the statements that have been made. And I'm glad that reference was made, as I did, to the portion related to the aspirations of the Palestinian people. And again, I think it is not reassuring that the conditionalities which are undefined in terms of what is accepted as a fundamental right. And when we hear about the trauma, and it is a very justifiable trauma that resulted in the Israeli public related to October 7th, I wonder to what extent is the trauma of a Palestinian people who have suffered under occupation for the last 80 years, who have been dehumanized, who have been subjected to assassination, to degradation. How have they felt, and what is their trauma? The families that have been wiped off of the face of the earth in the span of these 2 years, where the issue of Israeli security is somewhat exaggerated. Israel has demonstrated its ability. It's a state with institutions, with a military that has projected its power very much beyond its borders. And whatever happened on October the 7th, despite the horrendous nature and its unacceptable nature, did not put in question the existence of the State of Israel. It is a lapse in security that could have been easily rectified, but the subsequent improportional consequences of what happened and the amount of human suffering that has occurred certainly has to be taken. How that trauma is to be dealt with. And here, again, we've had over a quarter of a century of negotiations that have been fruitless, with a Palestinian Authority that has accepted the existence of Israel, has shown its desire to live in coexistence, and has had nothing in terms of reward other than its delegitimization. So all of these issues have to be rectified if we are to have a more positive perspective as relates the 20-point plan. But if we still are fixated on the rhetoric related to what has the Israeli government displayed or articulated how it sees the end of this conflict. It continually projects the need for security, but it doesn't in any way account. And if we are speaking about Hamas as a radical organization with fundamentalist ideologies, we see our Western partners very willing to embrace similar organizations at the same time. But the radicalization that has occurred by the Palestinian people because of the deprivation that they have lived in is going to generate a continual conflict that has no boundaries. But maybe that is the objective. The objective is to continue the conflict so as to be able to justify the policies of annexation, of dehumanization of people. I'm not sure how is the current Israeli policy to deal with the rights of 7-8 million inhabitants, people who have human rights, presumably. I think these are democratic values that should be upheld in action and not just upheld in rhetoric. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid I think we're really out of time, so I could take one question at the back, but be very quick because we are very... There's a microphone coming to you, but I'll take this one question and then I think we'll stop.
Thank you very much. Assuming that this ceasefire holds, let's hope so, does Trump's 20-point plan specify who will pay for the reconstruction of Gaza? There have been many calls for Russia to pay for reparations due to its destruction in Ukraine. I haven't yet, I think, heard a single call for Israel to foot the bill for the destruction of Gaza. Who does the panel think should pay? Thank you.
I don't know, Ambassador, if you want to give a quick comment on that. I mean, the European Union often has to pay for things.
Who's going to pay the bill?
Who is going to pay for the reconstruction of Gaza is the question.
Do you really want me to answer this question?
Yes, of course.
You don't have to.
Why not?
Israel will not pay for Gaza. I think it's clear to everybody that it makes sense. Who will pay for Gaza? The international community that think that this is what they need to do to reconstruct and rehabilitate Gaza in the West, in the Arab world, and elsewhere. I think they are the one that will be paying this eventually.
Including the European Union. They could pay.
You know, I explained before what is the state of play within the European Union regarding all these international developments. Yes, the question is very, very good. Who is going to pay? Because reconstruction will cost a lot of money, and it will take a lot of time. International community, as we said before, is unfortunately very weak and fragmented. Most of the member states of the European Union and of the United Nations have established bilateral relations with the region. So they serve the so-called national interest. Does this national interest is in accordance with the question, the substance of the question, the complex question? I don't think so. But I believe when the moment comes for both parts to decide to establish peace, it will not be difficult for the global community to be mobilized. But right now, I don't think there is any answer.
Okay, Mr. Musa, one last comment, and then one last comment from each of you.
Yep. Yes, I believe that Israel has to pay. Israel is responsible for the destruction, the major destruction that has taken place in Gaza. So others should not pay for that. Israel is responsible for that and should be called upon to pay and to redress that imbalance.
Okay, Mr. Georgiadis.
So I think we Europeans should be ready to do our part because it is our humanitarian duty, and I hope Egypt and especially the wealthy Gulf countries will also feel the same, that we have a shared responsibility to to help the reconstruction of Gaza. But I hope this time round we make sure that our money is indeed used for reconstruction and for creating schools and hospitals and small business, and does not become underground tunnels and bunkers and the launch site for Hamas in schoolyards and under hospitals, which will be used once again to destabilize the whole region.
Ambassador,
just one thing I want to say on the premise of the question, this comparison between Russia and Israel, I think the premise is completely wrong.
I agree with that.
Israel was attacked on October 7th, and we responded to this attack. It's very different than when you are initiating this attack yourself.
Well,
we have to stop.
You know what happened after the Second World War? The Marshall Plan.
Yes.
The Marshall Plan was the
Americans
plan that reconstructed Europe. Who paid for the Marshall Plan?
The Americans.
The Americans. Why? Because yes, they were the main winners in this conflict war, but at the same time, Germany was devastated. Yeah. So they paid the bill. I don't know whether Israel has to pay it or anybody else, but at least it is a shared responsibility of the whole world. Sure. If we all do it together, it can be done. As the ambassador said before, Israel does not have any will to pay the bill. But let's pay a good bill, all of us, in order to establish peace in the region. Otherwise, it will be an open bill for the future.
Fundamentally, from a humanistic perspective, the reconstruction has to be taken and implemented. And the problem is that everyone is going to try to deflect from that responsibility on the premise that it is the responsibility of someone else, being very practical about it. And then again, it's a matter of if there is an obligation to reconstruct Gaza, what is the incumbent obligation about the creation of a Palestinian state? And you asked about the position of Europe and the UK. I have to say that the UK had, when it was in the European Union, was usually the damper to a common European position when it came to the conflict, was always in line with the US policies, which have, again, has not endorsed this administration, the two-state solution. Right. So we are in a bit of a vicious cycle, but again, reconstruction is related to the overall comprehensive peace that we all seek, and that comprehensive peace has to take into account the creation of a Palestinian state.
All I can say is perhaps the Cypriot presidency of the European Union in the first half of next year, they could think a bit more about this whole issue.
Every confidence.
And I'd like to thank
Cypriot
the panel
presence.
for a very interesting session
Thank you
for all
very
of us.
The question that remained is who's going to pay the bill.
He wants to take a picture. He just wants to take a picture.
Gentlemen, don't leave the room, please. Take your seats because we've got a fascinating discussion to come. We've got 2 more sessions before we break. So it's my great pleasure now to welcome to the stage Armen Sarkisyan, who is a world-renowned theoretical physicist, a trailblazing diplomat, businessman, and politician who served as Armenia's prime minister in the 1990s and as president in 2018 to 2022. In 2023, Dr. Sarkisyan wrote an excellent book. Bear with me. We might have a picture of it. there is a picture, but even better, I have a copy. This is a book you should all read, actually, The Small States Club, How Small Smart States Can Save the World. Highly recommend it. And now Dr. Sarkisian's going to give us a taster and make the case for a small states club, a sort of S20, if you like. So welcome, welcome, Armen, and have a seat. Okay, the first sentence in this book says, long before I became the president of a small state, I was an ordinary citizen of an immense power. So you're Armenian, you were born in the USSR, and your entire life experience has taught you a lot about the power of big and small. These days, however, everybody seems to agree that we're living in an era of great power politics, great power rivalries, but you're insisting that small states have a big role to play. Why so, and how can they do that?
Hello, do you hear me? Yeah? Good. Well, thank you very much, first of all. You and the Economist Impact for inviting me here to talk. I'm so happy to be in Cyprus again after 30 years. When I was here on behalf of Republic of Armenia as a young diplomat to establish diplomatic relations both with Greece and Cyprus. And I would like to say it's very important that you don't take whatever I'm saying here, that I represent the Republic of Armenia or the government of Armenia, because I'm here as a pure theoretical physicist and a mathematician, trying to use just logic. I can easily take all of you to another debate that will go for another hour about the problems, because the problems are not only in Mediterranean, they are beyond it. I can easily take you to the problems of Republic of Armenia, people of Nagorno-Karabakh or Artsakh, the war that we had in 2020, are even beyond. So the world is much more complex and complicated. So I'm not going to do that, and definitely I'm not going to discuss, is Armenia going to pay for the problem in Gaza? So take whatever I am saying as an opinion of independent or former professor of theoretical physics and mathematics, both in Soviet Union, in Yerevan and in Moscow State, and later at Cambridge University and Harvard. Okay? For years I was looking and analyzing what's happening worldwide and what's the future of the small states for a simple reason. I was born in Soviet Union in a small republic which was called Armenian Soviet Social Republic. There was one simple rule in Soviet Union, that was number one country in the world that was exercising absolute PR on human rights. All men and women were equal in Soviet Union. All men were equal. Everybody had the freedom. In reality, nobody had anything. So from coming back from Soviet Union and being a physicist, and my first articles were connected with the work of a very famous professor, Nathan Rosen, that worked with Einstein. And my first work was challenging Einstein. So if I am a young physicist, I can ask questions and challenge Einstein, so I can do the same not only in physics and mathematics, in nature, but in politics as well. So all my life, further life, being scientist, diplomat, prime minister, businessman, I always hated political correctness. So please, take whatever I'm saying as a challenge. There was a discussion and basically presentation of problems in Mediterranean. Fine. But what I would like to tell all of you, that the world is much more complex and much more. So I'm not going to take you to further conflicts. I'm going to take you deeper. This world is not the one that we lived 20, 30 years ago. And I was thinking, and I have a theory that was initially when I presented that, people thought that it's nonsense. That was at the World Economic Forum. But later it was printed in one of the most prestigious publications of the Munich Security Conference, in Financial Times and elsewhere. It's called that the world is quantum. And the politics of today should be quantum as well. So what do I mean? I don't have the time of doing that or speaking about that, because the new book is coming out, which is called The New Quantum Politics of the World. What I mean many things, but one of the things is that this world is no longer classical. It's not the old world. It's not me, European Commissioner, saying that Europe doesn't work. We all know where is United Nations in Russia-Ukraine war? Where is United Nations in Gaza-Israel, this conflict? Where was United Nations at the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan? Nowhere. Okay? So the world has changed. In order to understand the deepness of this change, that's one of the reasons I named the old world as a classical one, and the new one is quantum. Why also quantum? As I said, there are 10 reasons for that. Quantum, because what has been rising all of these days is the power of quantum, individual. Why this is happening? Another reason being quantum. It's all is based on technology. 100 years ago, quantum physics was discovered. That's the reason that you have your telephone, your internet, your space travel, and everything. That means there is a power of individual with virtual power of the telephone, internet, and everything. That's the power that has created, or was the source of Arab Spring, colored revolutions, and many other things in this new world. Moving governments and prime minister, even in Britain. The phone, the Facebook, the power of individual. So with the rise of the power of individual, what was rising, unnoticeable in many cases, the rise of small states. Simple figures without numbers, small states. And the results that I'm going to tell you, probably you all know, because it comes from economists, from the World Bank, from the World Economic Forum. If you take the first top states in the world with the highest GDP per capita, they all are small states. Switzerland, Luxembourg, Qatar, Emirates, and the list continues. There are no big states. Unfortunately, there is no UK there, and there is no France, there is no America. If you take the top 10 countries in the world by, let's say, innovation index, the first top 10 are again small states. Singapore, Ireland, and so on and so forth. If you take the top 10 states in the world that are the best in e-governance, again, the first 10 are small states. And the first one is a very small state. It's Estonia. How on earth a small Estonia is much more advanced than the huge Germany? Tell me. Because we live in a new world. This world is so complex and so different than the one that we lived before. If we don't recognize that, we will never be able to resolve issues on Mediterranean. For a simple reason. Let me give you a couple of other examples that are in my book. This book is not, don't worry, it's not mathematical work. I wrote it as a sort of an easy reading book, a storytelling, to engage someone. Let me give you an example. Can anybody tell me from this audience, anybody, where was the first artificial intelligence university created on this planet? Greece? No. It was created in United Arab Emirates. It's called Artificial Intelligence University for a decade ago, named after Mohammed bin Zayed, yes. And it's Masdar City, and is run by one of the top specialists in the world, Eric Zink, who is American of Chinese origin. And that small country is one of the leaders in the world in artificial intelligence and quantum computing. And has, despite having huge amount of oil, they have built a huge nuclear power plant in order to have enough energy to serve the quantum computers and research in artificial intelligence. Because when you speak about artificial intelligence and quantum computing, it's not about only software. It's all about energy. You have to have enough energy to run your servers. Okay? Very, very simple question.
Can I jump in and
Of
ask
course.
a few questions? Okay, great. I guess, well, I want to hear how you would define a small state. I know that institutions like the IMF and World Bank have their definitions, and I suspect that you have a very different approach from them. But the small states that you write about, the smart small states or the successful small states that you write about in the book, from Singapore to Estonia, Ireland to Botswana, they're very diverse. So maybe you could just try and identify. I know you say that there's no kind of blueprint, but can you just tell us a few common denominators that have made them successful? Some essential qualities, maybe, or attributes of those states?
Well, thank you. Basically, there are two questions. The one is how do I identify, how do I define which state is small? If I would tell you a number, let's say 10 million population, somebody will ask you a question, why not 11? Okay, why not 9? So the key is very simple. I don't define a small state. I leave to all of us to agree. Is Cyprus a small state? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we all agree it's a small state. Is Britain a small state?
No.
No, fine. So it's so easy. So basically, if we agree that Qatar is a small state, or Ireland is a small state, then we agree. It's not about size. Norway is a small state, because it's a very complicated question. Although the territory is big, the population is small. But definitely, Norway is a smart state and a successful one. A state that has natural resources like oil, but instead of burning that oil or corruptly just making a couple of guys very rich, what Norway is doing, using technology, they have 1.5 times of their needed energy from wind and waves. All the oil basically is sold, and that money is going to their state fund, which is investing in top class world companies. One of the biggest, probably the biggest, 1.6 trillion fund as well. So that's an answer for your question, first question.
Mm-hmm.
The second question was?
The second question is, okay, there's no blueprint, and you don't say there's a blueprint for what makes a successful small state, but are there some common denominators among those successful? What are they?
Well, that was the whole idea of writing this book, to basically look at these states, which includes many states, including Israel, Qatar, Singapore, and others, basically forgetting are they democratic, about their human rights records and all of that stuff, just analyzing how on earth a small state, what were the reasons of these states were successful? Why Singapore, having all of these conflicts and problems with Muslims, Hindus, and Chinese together living, has created a new identity and a success? I'm not going to tell you the answer, because otherwise my hope of you guys reading my book will disappear. So I hope that some of you at least will read the book. But there are clear indications of, for example, there must be clear national identity, either in base or you create one, like in Singapore. There is a national identity in Israel. There is a national identity that is was developing in Qatar together with the conflict that Qatar had with the other neighbors, Arab neighbors. Their national identity was growing. And there is a new created national identity.
So I'm just speaking to the technician.
Yeah, there's a newly created national identity, which is in Singapore. Okay? So national identity, what matters, how effectively you take your natural or human resource that you have. In the case of Singapore, it was the human resource and geographical advantage. In the case of Qatar or Emirates, it was the natural resource that smartly was converted into one of the most advanced countries in the world, like as I was saying, United Arab Emirates. So basically, it's here. It's very important how you manage it. If you take Qatar, a country like Turkmenistan has even more gas than Qatar. But look how Qatar is using it. Ireland doesn't have oil, but it has huge human resources. Half of the US presidents were Irish. And Ireland had managed, I was in Ireland 35 years ago. You go back to Ireland today, it's a completely different country. And what was moving them? Smart decisions, making usage of Irish people, hardworking, taxation system, and the whole diaspora, the network of Ireland has worldwide.
So in your book, from this part of the world, we've got in your book Israel, Qatar, UAE. They've made it in there. How about Cyprus and Greece? Do you think they have what it takes, the potential or the attributes to be successful small states?
Well, the number of small, in my book, there are 9 states plus Armenia. Why Armenia? Well, unfortunately, Armenia is not a successful state yet, I hope. But I couldn't not write about Armenia because people would ask you, if you are so smart, you are the president of Armenia, president of parliamentary law, why you didn't make it smart? I tried. And I would say that unfortunately I didn't succeed. Yeah? But I'm honest there. But I should write about it. But there are 9 states, but doesn't mean that the small, smart states or successful states are only 9. There are much more of them. Okay? And of course that club is open. If you are a small state now and you are taking the path of being smart, working hard, becoming someone that will be recognized as a small, smart state or successful state, then of course you will be welcome to that club. Now the question is that club virtual or real? Is that the question? Because you said, Joe, you said about S20, yes?
Yes, I want to come to that at the end, and actually we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. So I want to come back to the whole idea of the S20, but just before that, you mentioned in passing there that when you looked at these countries, you weren't looking at whether at the nature of the political regime, the political setup in those countries. But it is quite striking that of those 10 countries in the book, only half of
9.
them. Well, I'm including the Armenia as well.
Thank you very much.
But only half of those countries are actually democracies, or at least as classified by our own democracy index. So I'm just wanted to probe a bit about that, whether you think that democracy is important or not in determining whether a state not only can be successful, but over the long term, that it can, succeed and have a kind of sustainable, success story, if you like.
I think the book has 9 states that are monarchies, centralized strong power, democracy like in Singapore, but with a lot of muscle, and others, okay? Well, I could have put, for example, one after another, for example, Estonia, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. They're all smart and successful states, but then the book would have been a bit boring and will not basically give you a solution, what I am looking for. So you can be small and smart and successful, like Israel is it, or like Qatar, if you are, let me not say the word democracy because it's a crucial name, but even in the new quantum world, the democracy must be redefined, how we exercise democracy. It's not only that we go 4 or 5 times, once in 4 years to the ballot and vote. That's not the democracy in 21st century. It checks and balances and many other things. But the other thing is that in our world, with the mobile phone, we are voting 5, 6 times a day. And that's a new democracy. So we have to think about how to exercise democracy and how the other states can be democratic in this new world. From the point of view of what sort of states, I think the states that are focusing on their people. I think from that point of view, if somebody would like to use the old Greek name of democracy, yes. Democracy, that the countries are run by the top best people of the nation. Against kakistocracy, which is Greek, means that the country is run by the worst representatives of the nation. So you define who is a democracy in this world, run by the best guys, or who is a kakistocracy, and you can see, the ones that are kakistocracy, they are definitely not smart and they are not successful.
Thanks. We've come to the end. We've got one more session and we need to finish by 6:30. So my last question...
Can we drag feet like the previous session? No?
We can try, but I don't think Nectaria will allow
No,
me
Nectaria, don't worry.
We're joking. So we're very disciplined, are we
course.
not? The final point really is about this idea of the small states club. So you published this book. This is something that you're personally very keen on. It stirred a discussion about, the possibility of such a group. Have you encountered enthusiasm for this? Is this something that you think could actually materialize and play? What sort of role could it play, actually?
Well, I can share it with you, Joe. I think this was not just a sort of a theoretical exercise of many years that I just put as a book and tried to make it popular. Sort of people will be different parts of our population can read it and enjoy it as a even travel book. Okay? No, the aim was to make a small introduction to the idea of you can be small, you can be smart, you can be powerful, you can be successful. Let's try everybody, okay? But how do you try one is the idea of a club. I think we were just speaking about UN, European Union. The club is not another international organization, neither political or economic or military or nothing. It's just a club. People come together and share their experience of being smart and successful. Imagine once a year, 10, 15, 20 heads of states or foreign ministers come together of small, smart states and have 1 or 2 days of together in a conference or just a club meeting and sharing with each other their success, the source of their success, and so on. In this new world, we need more connections and communication, especially if the big ones, multinationals, are very effective, especially if the ideology-based world is changing. The world is not divided now between communism and capitalism. Russia is one of the big capitalist states. In fact, in many ways, it's oligarchic or you name it, what sort of a capitalist, but it's a capitalist state. So the thing is, what sort of state you are. It's not about ideology. It's not about how do you take care of people. So from that point of view, if one day we, after a while, when the club works, we can create S20, or I hope it's S30. There are 30 top-class, small but smart and successful states. Their voice should be heard. Very simple. We have G20, the giant 20. Okay? They come together, they decide the future of the world. Why on earth these small states, where people live better than in the giant states, why they don't have their voice heard? Because they are small, there are too many of them. But maybe we can bring them together and their joint voice could be represented at G20, at United Nations, at G7, and will be an example for other small states to work harder, be smarter, to look in the future rather than into the past of conflicts and who was responsible, who is the bad guy, who is the new guy. The world is no longer black and white. It's multicolored. So we have to realize that in this new world, the size doesn't decide much. If you are looking for military power, doesn't matter, do you have, for example, 1 million soldiers? If I will tell you, what would you prefer, to have 1 million soldiers or 2 million drones? Which one would you prefer? I would prefer 2 million drones. And a country like Emirates can easily have 2 million drones. The nuclear power is no longer in the hands of a couple of countries, because I'm a physicist theoretical. I can build a nuclear power plant anywhere, including in Cyprus. Nuclear power plant and a nuclear bomb. It's not about how you manage and say you cannot have it. It's all about, because it's a knowledge. We have to find another way, and another way, for example, in nuclear is to manage nuclear fuel. Not the idea of having a bomb or a nuclear power plant. So the world is changing, and we have to change. That's my message.
Excellent, Armen Sarkisian. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Let's have a photograph, and we'll move swiftly on to talk about EU budget.
Did we do good?
We did. Of course we did. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving straight on to this final session before we break and then have our cocktails and our dinner. Apologies, first of all, to our guests, because I know that we've kept you waiting, George Afthias. Some of the sessions ran over a little bit, so thank you very much for your patience. It's great to have you with us. We're going to focus now on the EU's next long-term budget, and we're going to hear first of all from George Afthias, a member of the European Parliament for the EPP, via connection. Welcome, sir, and I'm going to hand over to you to make some opening remarks. Thank you. Okay, the floor is yours.
Καλησπέρα σας από το Ευρωπαϊκό Κοινοβούλιο. Dear colleagues, I will talk to Greek. Θα μιλήσω ελληνικά.
I will speak in Greek.
Γιατί
because the last, very recently, because I'm here at the European Parliament, the Germans, they speak German, the French, they speak French, the Belgium, Brussels, Spanish, they speak Spanish. So we will want to give power, strength to our country. My brothers, sisters from Cyprus, they use Greek as well. And I would like to thank you because you give me the opportunity to speak in brief, because this is what I've been doing for the last 35 years with the Greek TV. And now in Europe, I'm George Afthias, my name. I'm a member of the European Parliament and member of the Financial Commission of the European Parliament. And I want to tell you that you have this multi-annual. What is multi-annual? Multi-annual is a planning of economic policy for the following 7 years. So Europe, during these 7 years, stipulates or says that I'm going to spend 3 trillion, but this is larger than the previous one. So there have been some changes, mutations. So this budget aims at the following. First, common security in Europe, more competitiveness, because Europe now does not have only China to face or Russia, but they have also the problem with USA and the Trump tariffs. So you have the huge problem of hydrocarbons. This is a huge topic which might give huge energy, to Europe. And I'm going to say this very simple, as I used to say these 35 years in the Greek TV. Now we go to defense. How do we have defense? Until now, Europe had the USA, had NATO. So it has NATO, but Trump said the following: I'm not going to give any money, not a single cent, no money for the European defense. So Europe with 200 billion, 800 million, and out of this 150 is the so-called SAFE. SAFE is the financial funding for defense, which excludes countries like Turkey, because Turkey cannot occupy the northern part of Cyprus and cannot threaten Greece every day to have Lesbos, Chios, or the whole Aegean, and the government to come and bring and get money from the European Union. So we excluded Turkey from SAFE, and we are going to exclude Turkey for the second time if Turkey tries to do that via European firms, European companies to do that. So this is a battle. We are struggling for this with my colleagues, the Cypriots, and also the Greek MEPs, because Europe cannot fund a weapon which is called Turkey, which turns against Cyprus and against Greece. So the second thing that Europe has at its children, I should say, where Turkey is suffering, is prior to the war of the Ukraine. Ukraine had a very cheap natural gas from Russia and defense from the States, and also it has a huge market, that is to say the China market. They used to sell products, and then China, after the war, China now produces cars of lower price by 50%. That is why the French are insisting on electrical cars, and they do not have a cheap natural gas either. Therefore, the funding for the production of products is higher, and no defense. Therefore, the Europe now has to finance its defense, has to be competitive with Europe, and to create conditions of competitiveness, and also to tackle the problem with Trump's tariffs. So you understand that the difficulties are huge for Europe, and Europe should also acquire more financial thoughts. To think about people who are homeless, or problems with pensions, problems, health problems, provident problems, or infrastructure problems. And of course, then you have the Draghi report, which says that every year 400 billion from Europe, and they go to the USA. Why? Because in the USA, within one day, you can operate a company, whereas in Europe, you need at least 15 days, and in Greece, another 30 days. Now, can we solve these problems? Yes, of course, these problems can be solved. But if Europe decides with one single policy, integrated policy, financial policy, and via states, via countries, to solve problems that Europe is causing many times. I do not know whether I can say a few other things, which are quite interesting, because I know that I have to finish quite quickly. I am at your disposal for questions that you're going to put to me, questions, and I believe that this is the most important part.
Just to say, I had a slight problem because with my in-ear microphone, this is not working for me. Nevertheless, I have a few questions for you. I believe we also have a recorded message. Are we going to hear the recorded message, Nectaria? Yeah, maybe we can start with some questions. So I'm sorry, because of the problem with the audio that I had, I wasn't able to follow all your introductory remarks. But just a few quick questions, maybe. Have we still got our guest? Yeah. So just in terms of what was announced in July, I would call this a kind of a bit of a bombshell budget. You know, the kind of biggest ever EU budget, the proposal for a the present budget is 1.2 trillion, and we're looking at a 2 trillion budget. So it's a 64% increase compared with the current 2021 to 27 budget. So before we get into the details of the budget itself, I guess there is a question of how, you know, this could happen. And my understanding, and by all accounts, there was a kind of mini revolt among the commissioners themselves about the budget. So is there a problem with Ursula von der Leyen's style of centralized leadership that we ended up with such a situation? Or is it rather the problem that the EU's needs are insatiable, or at the moment very outsized needs on defense and other things? So just about the process itself, obviously we start the negotiations, we've got 2 years to negotiate this budget. But it seems to have been very badly conceived in the first place. So do you think it's a problem just simply with the demands of the moment, or is there a problem here with the way this process was organized, and particularly by the President, by the EU, by the Commission itself?
Είναι πολύ σημαντικό το ερώτημά σας.
Your question is very, very important, and I congratulate you for your question and for your remark. And I want to say the following. And now you are now wearing your headset. I would like to congratulate you for the question and for the remark. And there is a different opinion between the European Parliament and the Commission. MEPs are this is the will of people, according to Aristotle. And the Commission says, I am what I am, and I decide. And there is a difference. That the 7 sectors which existed before, now they've become 4. The European Parliament wants to have a word, wants to participate in the decisions taken by the Commission. And at this very moment, we have this dimension, these opinions rather, and they want more money for the agriculture. The European Parliament wants to be heard. The EU wants to take decisions, and these decisions also to be heard in the Commission, because the MEPs they're not just decoration. Because I'm telling you the following: I was 360,000 voted me in Greece, 360,000. So every time I have to tell them why. How, and I had the honor, because I was the first parliamentarian in Greece, so they want a strong voice, and my voice should reach also the Commission, and you said this very correctly.
To follow up, in terms of meeting the kind of meeting the budget, the big question, I guess, is about what the new own resources that are being talked about to fill the gap between the monies paid by the individual EU member states and money raised by the EU. So with these new own resources, we're talking about a tax on companies, all large companies within the EU with a turnover of more than 100 million euros. We're talking about another tax on e-waste, a fee on flown-in packages, and a hike in tobacco tax. And that's going to be on top of the usual increases in VAT and customs duties. Now, understandably, I think a lot of companies within Europe who are already struggling to compete with the US, with China, and so on, which are operating in an environment of relatively low growth, are kind of up in arms at the prospect of having to pay this new tax on large companies. And arguably, it's not going to do much to help Europe's problem of competitiveness. Do you think it's realistic to expect that these new own resources will materialize, will actually happen? Or do you think that in the course of what will be the outcome, in your opinion, of over the next 2 years of the negotiations? How we know that there's Germany and Finland and Austria are not going to accept this budget. So how is this going to be resolved in the course of the next 2 years in the negotiations?
Your question is extremely important, and my direct reply to your question is that it is indeed Europe will avoid tax of large companies. And we'll do that because Trump's tariffs at this very moment, they do work as a compressor on top of the head of the leaders of the EU country leaders. So these would be on platforms which are not taxable at all. They do whatever they want, they write whatever they want, they say everything they want, and they don't pay any taxes. So this is a huge source of income from electronic platforms, and e-platforms will also cause problems with the larger companies. Then we have we are going to have a larger tax on tobacco companies, cigarettes, tobacco, and so on and so forth. And because cigarettes or tobacco, they do create many health problems. The third element is that if we achieve an agreement between Europe and Trump with regard to tariffs, then the potential imposition of taxes on large companies will be decreased and will shrinken. So I believe that 2026, and we are going to give the possibility to the European Union to think patiently, and also the competent commissioners for finances to cover these differences, to cover these discrepancies, because taxation on companies between Europe and USA is like from devil to paradise.
Is up, really, and we're going to hear a brief message also from well, thank you very much, George, for joining us, and for your remarks and answering those questions. Let's hear, just to close the session, from Michael Hadjibantella, the member of the European Parliament for the EPP, who's recorded a message for us, and that will be the close of the session. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is a great honor to address myself to all those participants at the 21st Annual Cyprus Summit of Economists. I would like to thank the organizers of the summit, as well as the European Parliament Liaison Office for their invitation to discuss such a critical question, which is the following multi-annual fiscal framework. As you know very well, in my capacity and member of important committees, and I take part in the shaping of this frame, and always I'm guided by the best interest of Cyprus and our people. And my objective is for the EU to affirm or to have, the necessary annual budget in order for Europe to remain competitive, resilient, safe, and thus securing at the same time the welfare of the member states. And within this multi-annual fiscal framework, the European Union supports the national budgets and gives the chance to the countries to have investments. We have the cohesion policy, agriculture policy, Erasmus Plus, innovation, health, security, safety, and many others. And as a member of the Commission, of Budget Commission, as well as an editor and a shadow editor on the issues of environment and health, I'm working methodically, aiming at safeguarding that Cyprus will be faced as an important key partner in this planning. And very recently, when the President, Ursula von der Leyen, spoke about the creation of a hub, forest hub in Cyprus, she sent a very important message that Cyprus is not only a receiver, but Cyprus has also added value for the Union and for its readiness to respond to crisis. At the same time, very top of my priorities is reinforcing the policies for the improvement of public health, such as the creation of a European Center for diseases, for rare diseases, which are very, very important for Cyprus. So the new multi-annual fiscal framework, we have to be very clear and well documented, and above all, you have to be demanding, because this context does not concern only amounts, but Cyprus has to take this opportunity in order to safeguard the resources, not only to tackle and mitigate the risks and dangers, but also for the real reinforcement of the infrastructures of the country, such as competitiveness, resilience of the economy, as well as reinforcing European stability in the Eastern Mediterranean. Rest assured that as long as this depends on us, Cyprus will not remain in the margin waiting for the announcement, but Cyprus will be present where important decisions will be taken. In closing, I would like to wish a great success to the proceedings of this conference, with the certainty that for once again this is going to be a conference of ideas, of thoughts, in order to reinforce the competitiveness of the Cyprus economy. And I would like to thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone a few minutes over
Κυρίες
time.
και κύριοι.
We've gone, let's have it again. We're now going to have a short break, and then we're having cocktails starting in 20 minutes at 7 o'clock. We have a cocktail reception. I hope you will all join us. And at 8 o'clock, we'll be having our gala dinner with our guest of honor, Mike Pompeo. So thanks very much for bearing with us. I hope you enjoyed the discussions this afternoon, and see you all at the cocktail reception.
Όταν τίποτα δεν σε σταματά, προχωράς μπροστά. Πιο δυνατά. Κάνεις περισσότερα. Και σπάς τα όρια. Το δίκτυο Nova 5G φτιάχτηκε για σένα. Για ταχύτητα και απεριόριστες δυνατότητες. Απεριόριστα data. Ταχύτητες 5G. Πάρε το Unlimited All τώρα. Από μόνο 28 ευρώ το μήνα. Μόνο στη Nova.
Το Nova Fiber φέρνει τη δύναμη της οπτικής ίνας. Όχι μόνο μέχρι το δρόμο, αλλά μέχρι και το σπίτι σου. Nova Fiber. Σούπερ σταθερό και σούπερ γρήγορο ίντερνετ για όλους ταυτόχρονα. Ακόμα και ασύρματα με τη δύναμη του Wi-Fi 6. Βάλε Nova Fiber πρόγραμμα στο σπίτι σου. Από μόνο 27,22 ευρώ το μήνα με Gigabit Voucher. Nova.
Check this out. It hasn't been such a long time since people first started shopping online, and it was easy to keep up with the clicks. Little by little by little by more, the clicks added up to be more than the stores, and e-tailers worked harder than ever before because they had to keep up with the clicks. The clicks came from laptops, then tablets and phones, Monday through Sunday, office and home, 24 hours in every zone, and still they kept up with the clicks. Now shoppers ask more from the websites they're on, their language, their currency, their way, or they're gone, so you'd better keep up with the clicks. All of a sudden, there are so many must-dos if you want to keep selling, like delivery there, no there, or there.
And make it tomorrow, first thing.
No time for borders. Gotta stay in control, to stay in the flow and continue to grow. But we'll help you. Keep up with the clicks.
ECOMBX.
It's all over the news. Tech companies are becoming energy giants, banks are becoming software companies, and fast food is getting into wellness. At PwC, we're making sure you're ready for what's next. With AI that's built for how your business works, we're designing built-for-you solutions with tech titans and trailblazers. And our 370,000 professionals are taking on the knowns, unknowns, and never saw that comings that are definitely coming. We're in it with you, sleeves rolled up, start to finish, so you can stay ahead, so you can protect what you built, so you can create new value. We build for what's next, so you can get there now. PwC, so you can.
The world needs ways to reduce carbon emissions.
Especially for heavy industry.
We're working on solutions in our own operations.
Like carbon capture.
And clean energy from hydrogen.
So who are we?
Believe it or not, ExxonMobil. And these solutions can help businesses like yours.
Or yours.
Or yours.
Heavy industry with low emissions. Let's deliver.
Με ελεύθερο πνεύμα, ευθύνη και θάρρος, βγήκαμε πρωταθλητές. Freedom 24. Γεννηθήκαμε στην Κύπρο, κατακτήσαμε την Ευρώπη. Όταν τίποτα δεν σε σταματά, προχωράς μπροστά. Πιο δυνατά. Κάνεις περισσότερα. Και σπάς τα όρια. Το δίκτυο Nova 5G φτιάχτηκε για σένα. Για ταχύτητα και απεριόριστες δυνατότητες. Απεριόριστα data. Ταχύτητες 5G. Πάρε το Unlimited All τώρα από μόνο 20